I have friends and family who are participating in the riots and have been for the past year, and were pre October 7, So and I'm sure I'm not alone in being somebody who knows close people.
Of course.
Right. And some of them, their family, we love them. And so, one of the things um like some of the stuff that you're sharing and that we've, because of the community that we are in, right? We're learning from you and Chabad rabbis and our communities um but where we are to be able to hear what you're saying versus where our friends and family are, there's a very big gap. And maybe I can speak for myself and maybe others can relate that I was in that position in a point in my life too, where I could hear what you're saying right now, and it's just noise. It doesn't sink in. Um, and I think many people right now on both or whatever, how many sides you want to call it, get used to what resonates for them and they're entrenched, right? So just spilling our point out to them, like nobody's listening, and we can expect we know what they're going to say already. We've shut it out. We don't care. So you know this situation and others we've lived through leading up to now, and others we've learned about that happened before our time. They're dreadful and they're terrifying and it's daunting. And it's like, when will it end? And why haven't we figured it out? And that's on the macro. On the micro, it's like life threatening. It's like, oh my gosh, like what's going to happen to me too? I don't want to suffer. I don't want to, how do we, and so in the past, I mean, thank God, because I think what I've been learning through Hasidus has definitely helped me not like get down like just hopeless, like angry, um, but pessimistic, terrified, depressed, like what is the point? So thank God for that. And so then I think to myself, like, I'm not a politician. I'm not even near a politician. I am not
Mhm.
interested or qualified to consider being a politician. I'm not in the military, same thing. So like there's what I can control, my lane, their lane, and God's lane. And that's the other thing, right? Like we don't have the big picture. So I say all of that to say that like I got to speak to a niece of mine who's in Israel. She's talented and beautiful and young, and uh, and I don't get to speak to her often, but her birthday had come up, so we touched base. And she was getting on the bus with her boyfriend to go to a rally. And but what I realized is you know, like it first of all, it didn't trigger anything in me because like I'm so not worried about that. Like there's something else going on. And then in hearing some of the things that she was saying, what I realized, one thought that came to mind was these are Jewish people, many of them, but not all of them. And with what they know, they're pained, they're scared, they are just processing in whatever way they can. So I realized like this is an outlet. It's their outlet. It's like you see a child, right? And they're just and you don't necessarily say, "Oh, what do you want? Okay, you want candy? Here, have the candy. Stop crying." It's kind of like, okay. Just what they're doing. They need to let it out. And and uh and and to love them and stuff. And then I even was able to share with her like a Rebbe story, like it came up, And she comes from a family that doesn't have a lot of patience or an inkling of interest in anything like that. So I told her, I said, listen, I've got this story. It's a Rebbe one. Bear with me. You probably aren't going to be into the deep, but you'll get there's a gist. Maybe you'll, relate to the gist, right? And and so anyway, it was, I don't know if I shared with you guys about the dollar and the cab driver story. Uh Yeah, so I shared that with her. That one it's just a story that just I've stuck with me since I heard it, and it keeps coming up and relevant in so many conversations I'm having. And so even with my niece in Israel, who's like so like would never necessarily, you know, is listening. And and so anyway, and so the gist, the story was, like we don't know what's going on. In spite of us, that dollar is going to find its driver. It's going to get to its driver. And and so anyway, but I was also able to just be in conversation with her without being another person who's like, oh, this hostage, I mean, obviously it's heart-wrenching when you see the mother of Hirsch and the others and speak. I mean, it's, we can relate and we're crying and it's painful and all of this stuff. But to your point, um, like, what can I do? What can we do? What do we have to do to be strong and healthy and whole so that we can carry out our mission and shine light with the family, with the place, wherever we are? That's kind of what I feel like we've been educated and empowered to be. And so I felt like I was able to show up that way with my niece with no agenda. Like, just first, I recognized, it's an outlet. Secondly, I love her. I admire her. I'm so happy for her. I could encourage her to like keep taking care of herself, that's so important. Share this little Rebbe thing to it, just to show her a person who is not, you know, and at the end she was like, oh, I enjoyed this conversation so much. We need to connect again, and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. I just share it because how we interact with folks, when we realize where we are and where they are, there's a big divide, and we can just
Mm.
sound like just another other side, just, it's God and he gave it to us and the Torah and, yeah, whatever, like that doesn't mean it's just, there's just not enough for them to receive it at this stage. So how do we? And this is another thing I feel like I learned from the Rebbe, like, always look for the positive in someone, see their good intentions, be there for them, love each other, take good care of ourselves and each other. And I feel like that I can do that because you've exemplified, and the other Chabad people in the community that I've come across show me and have done that with me. And it's opened up so much for me as a result of just that love and understanding, where I am. Uh,
Beautiful. Beautiful.
anyway.
So, um, beautiful. So, what we can do, and the only thing we can do, is share our authentic selves with another. And that's what you did. Now, of course, you need to, when you're dealing with some one person, you need to be sensitive to that person where they're at. And you're not going to, um, you know, tell them, by the way, you need to do this mitzvah, 231 mitzvah. You have to do the number 17 mitzvah. You have to, you're not doing that. You're sharing with them with a sensitivity of what they're ready to hear. That's true, but it's got to be authentic. So you're not going to share that the land of Israel belongs to us because the prophets merely trod upon it, because that wouldn't be authentic for you.
Mm.
It wouldn't be authentic. So are you going to say that, it's a God-given land? Maybe or maybe not, because that's not the message at the moment. Maybe the message at the moment is, like you said, just being there for her, hearing her, and, sometimes I hear from people things that are so contrary to anything I believe, and I don't say anything.